Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the regular city council meeting on May 8th, 2024. Order. Sunday.
Mayor David Romero.
Here.
Councilor Marvin Martinez.
Present.
Councilor Barbara Casey. Here. Councilor Michael Montoya.
Present.
Councilor David Ojibari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would you like to call?
Thank you. Councilman Martinez will be his pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approaching the flag, we'll give us a moment of silence.
A moment of silence for our community, for peace on earth, to win the wars, and also for all those people that have lost their homes due to the fire, and all those people that are still homeless. And we pray for recovery, so we can get somewhat to normal. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Councilman Montoya, a second. Second by Councilman Martinez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Moving on, Mr. Mayor, public input. We have no this evening. Moving on to our mayor's appointments, reports, recognitions, and proclamations.
At this time, I don't have any appointments or proclamations. Just want to continue to thank staff for all that they do. We know we continue to have a staffing shortage. It's going above and beyond. Thank you guys.
Mr. Mayor, next we have our council's reports.
Councilors?
Mr. Mayor, just something real quick. Councilor Montoya had requested that the street between, I don't know if it's Mountain View and
Mountain View.
can be opened up. And I did talk to several people at the school district. And I was informed that when the schools were built in that area of Los Niños and Serenista, that changing the street is now a school access road. And they will not open it because it's a safety hazard for the children, and the buses get locked in and they can't get to the kids. It creates a real backlog of vehicles. So they will not open it up.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there anything else on? Is that it?
That's it. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make the, what do you call it, the shoveling of the dirt on University Avenue. But I had everything away from work, so sorry that I wasn't able to attend.
Thank you, Councilor Casey, and I know that after the injury, we still appreciate you still continue to do this by phone. We do this for you.
Well, I miss being there, and I'm hoping that as soon as we're back, hitting home, I will be rejoining you. So I had heart injuries that occurred that I wasn't aware of until I went to physical therapy. So hopefully by then I'll be back on track.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors?
Yeah. No, it's been a busy last 2 weeks, but we attended on last Friday, we did a breaking ceremonies on University Avenue, reconstruction surface and sidewalks, tree removal, ADA compliance, and this project should be completed within 120 days, as long as weather permits. It's a $2.6 million project. It's funding from, total fully funded by the Municipal Department of Transportation. So we thank the Mesa DOT for that project, well needed, and it'll be a nice project once it's completed. On Wednesday, I also attended mainstream New Mexico seminar in New Mexico Highlands University. We thank you to Amanda and Nisi for bringing it to Las Vegas. They will be having 7 sessions in the state, 7 districts. And their focus is on planning for the future and water shortages throughout New Mexico. So anybody can attend any of those meetings and give their input and how we can what strategies should we utilize in order to water for the future of New Mexico. And also last Monday, Mr. Mayor asked me to attend the Earth Day, and that's nationwide. We had a cleaning along the Guaymas River, both sides of the river, and thank you to the leadership of Dr. Jennifer Eldred from New Mexico Highlands University. And she got a bunch of volunteers from the Memorial Middle School, as well as citizens, and they all participated. They had a lunch afterwards, and thank you to the staff for taking our trash bins up there for us to put in our trash. It was a better place, it wasn't before, it's clean. Another announcement that I have is that FEMA is having a claim office resource fair, or had one in, was going to have one on May the 11th at Sheridan Volunteer Fire Department, and that is for anyone to go in there and do their proof of loss or proof of claim for snow damage or anything like that. All citizens and county residents are welcome. They had one last Saturday at the Plaza Park, and they ended up assisting, I believe, 100 people for about $1 million in losses. So take advantage of this. It's a good thing. Everybody qualifies for it, and feel free to do that. Another thing is, Mayor and myself attended Healing Day of Prayer at the Plaza Park. There was a lot of people that attended, and it was a good day. It was a sunny day, clean day, everything like that. It was all blessing to a lot of prayer, and that's why we all showed up. We had priests from Mary, our parish in Las Vegas. I think it was awesome. I think we're starting things that participate in things that are important for our city community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, yes, I just wanted to mention also that university project that will go on to, I believe, September 11th. I think that's the end date on that. So those people that work in the area, that have business in the area, it's going to be a little uncomfortable for you guys to be, trying to get through that area. So just be patient. We're trying to get those projects completed. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the senior center. I'm pretty sure that it's pretty close to completion as far as the parking lot, if I'm correct, but there might be a couple of smaller things that need to be taken care of, and that's pretty well on its way to be completed. I did attend with yourself the swearing in for our chief of police, Galen Marcus. This was last Friday, and that was a nice, quiet ceremony at the PD. I do appreciate being available to go check that out. And then, of course, Friday al Fresco, which is the event that is going back to the city, I guess, from from the Las Vegas First. That's correct. I was trying to remember what the event was, but I also attended that with you and one of the other counselors as well. So. The only other concern I have is, people do ask a lot about Independence Avenue street repairs. So I want to make sure that, we try to address that at one point. I know there's a lot of moving parts, and it's been very, very busy for the last couple of weeks. So That's pretty much all I have in my report. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to our city manager's report, we have Mr. Tim Cook.
Mayor and councilors, thank you again for having me here. So I always like to start with the welcoming of our new employees. First, we have Danny Corti for police information clerk, Julio Ruiz, a laborer with the gas department, Matthew Hayes is a firefighter, Morris Madrid with our finance director, Alfred Mays, laborer with the water department, Joshua Martinez with the labor with the water department as well, and Danielle Lafoya, a line locator with utilities. So welcome aboard. In our previous council sessions, we had the following items I want to make sure I report back on. The first one being with sponsorship opportunities. I am in communication with Luis Hernandez. He presented to the governing body in our last session in April. He and I have had some communication to discuss opportunities with obtaining sponsorships for the city. And we'll continue to speak about sponsorship opportunities that blend with the city initiatives. They'll also take into account target markets, geographical regions, and then compensation. Just as an update on our city auction, the city auction took place from April 11th through the 26th. All items were sold, and we earned a total of $37,198. There's still some more work to do there because we do have other items that we can consider putting up for auction or other uses of those items, potential trade-ins and so forth. I want to call out also with our grant updates, Robert Archuleta is back on contract and working with our grants. His focus over the last 3 weeks has been reconciling the grant balances from when his contract ran out of funds, and he was away from us for some time. He's working with the state on ensuring that our notice of obligations, our NOOs, are in place. He's meeting with the departments to ensure funds do not revert back to the grantor. At this time, significant resources will shift to the old city hall to ensure work takes place there by June 30th and we don't revert those funds back. And there'll also be significant effort placed on the city infrastructure capital improvement plan, or the ICIP as many of you know it. This is due to the state in July. Also, I want to give an update on the city hall. Remediation began on Saturday, May 4th. The scope of the project includes the basement abatement, which is really the duct tape, removal of duct tape that has asbestos. There's going to be demo in the basement floor, sheetrock walls, and PVC tiles. They're going to clean the furnace and replace the filters. They'll service the air conditioning. There'll be removal of moisture damaged materials that are down in the basement. The open walls will be scrubbed and treated with EPA registered disinfectant and coated with a mold inhibitor. The main floor content will be cleaned through ozone and hydrochlorine decontamination. They'll seal the stud wall, floors, and ceiling joist system with antimicrobial coating. They'll also be going down into the crawl space and cleaning the soil. So we're hoping to be back in the city somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks. That's the hope. I want to go into some of our city department updates. I promise I won't do all the pages I did last time. So under community development, there were 163 business licenses renewed, 9 new business licenses, 45 residential building permits, and 5 commercial permits processed, 52 code enforcement calls for service, 12 citations issued, 5 red tags posted, 3 abandoned vehicle notices posted, 2 abatements are in the process stage. Also, under our transportation, we had 1,750 riders. I want to call out our main events. This all falls under community development. There was a blood drive back on May 1st at the rec center. The National Day of Prayer was at Plaza Park on the 2nd of May. 3rd of May's music in the park at the Park Plaza. May 4th, FEMA at Plaza Park. Going into future things, May 11th, New Mexico Highlands graduation. May 12th is Mother's Day concert at Plaza Park from 12 to 6 p.m. May 14th, Noches de Familia at Lincoln Park, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. May 17th is Music in the Park again, 5:30 to 8:30. May 18th, Las Vegas graduation. Their last day of school will be May 22nd. Robertson High graduations on May 24th. There's also Music in the Park that night from 5:30 to 8:30. Robertson High last day of school will be May 30th, and then May 31st we'll have another Music in the Park from 5:30 to 8:30. Under community services, there were 191 museum visitors in April. We had a total of 1,282 visitors this fiscal year, so that's from July 1st forward. Senior Center South parking lot is nearing completion. The Senior Center East parking lot is in progress after the approval from the Aging and Long-Term Services Department. The Senior Center Hot Shop truck funding is being established. It's a total of $140,000 from the state. And there's a $21,000 gap of funding, and that's being brought forward to the council for approval of those funds. Training has begun working on the HVAC replacement. The estimated completion is May 24th. The Tai Chi group is offering services at the rec center during the parking lot project. Under finance, the RFP for the 2025 audit services is underway, and we're waiting for the proposal submissions to be evaluated. Procurement training is in preparation to be delivered to city employees during the budget process. And discussions with local government investment pool is actively taking place. They're working now with completing the appropriate documentation to participate. The quarterly financial reports have been submitted to the Department of Finance, or DFA. And the 2024-25 budget process is underway, and initial budget meetings or hearings will be held the week of May 13th. Human Resources, we did have a hiring event on April 25th at the Rec Center. They're working on the RFP for general legal counsel and working on a citywide RFP for hail damage for the vehicles. That's still taking place. There's been some discrepancy in guidance given to us that, again, we need to do a full RFP for the entire fleet and not break it down department to department. That's for procurement code. The final inspections have been done to the buildings. We're waiting to hear from SIF for the self-fund regarding the recreation center roof, police department roof, museum roof, and community development roof. We're also reviewing the organizational charts as part of the budget process to see what positions should remain and should anything be reinstated, and that would be proposed during the budget process. Our safety officer is the one working on the city hall remediation process, so I'll say that's on that. As far as parks, we began watering April 10th. They have been going through cleaning the sprinkler heads at each park, replacing broken sprinkler heads, aerating, tilled, and seeded the Plaza Park, Maruva Park, Lincoln Park, and Carnegie Park. They have placed more trash containers at various parks. They've retightened the netting at Rodriguez Baseball Field. There's weekly power washing taking place at the Plaza Gazebo. And then I won't read them all, but there's daily assignments happening at all of the parks. and that includes weed control, trash control. Public Works, Legion Drive Road improvement, we're at 35 to 40% complete stage. The project recommenced April 1st. The contractor is working on the curb, gutters, ADA compliant curbs and ramps. Paving is taking place from 7th Street to Sagebrush. The roadway is open to traffic from 7th to Collins, and the contractor is maintaining the road during the duration of the work for dust control. University Avenue Road improvement, the contract was signed in April, and the project started May 6th. El Crescent, a purchase order has been issued to Miller Engineering for planning and design. City staff have reviewed the plans and has given the engineer to move forward to 90% design stage. Airport, there's been pavement seal and marketing completed at 60% complete. Airport lighting and signage, that's anticipated to start the project June 12th and complete September 10th. Streets division are continuing with pothole patching throughout the city street sign maintenance, tree trimming on hazardous trees, also city alley and dirt road maintenance, installed speed humps on Chagas Street, placed erosion control rock bedding in their Arroyo at West National, and then they have their daily work orders. Public facilities installed new outlets on Bridge Street light poles. These are for events that would take place and utilize the power source. Servicing AC units throughout the city facilities. Painted the train station office space. Repaired and replaced lumber in the Plaza Gazebo, and then also their daily work orders. Utilities, I just want to call out again that Travis Martinez is still serving in the interim director role. With gas, there were 208 work orders in the month of April, 6 leak checks, 115 non-pay service cuts, 1 new service, and 11 pilot light checks. Customer service for water, there were 1,003 work orders, 829 of those were completed. They did 15 use scraps, 1 audit, 1 new water assistance, 7 water credits issued, and 3 toilet rebates processed. Field customer service for water, 395 work orders. There were 89 line locates and 101 leak checks. Distribution for water, there were 2 leaks, 10 non-pay service cuts, 40 connects, 27 disconnects, 7 water credits, and 8 service renewals. For solid waste, we collected 1,102 tons that was disposed, and that brought a total of $37,741. There were 15 service providers placed out there, 10 removals, 20 repairs, and 25 verifies. Wastewater, there's 29.67 million gallons of influent flow, and there's 21.61 million gallons of the fluid flow. For the reservoir storage, Peterson Reservoir right now is at 130 acre feet, Story Lake 706 acre feet, and Bradner 300 acre feet. This takes us to a total of 1,136 acre feet. And if you'll notice the asterisks for Story Lake, the March Reservoir was reported at 1,206 acre feet. And we're currently working with the Story Lake Water Users Association to review the loss of approximately 420 acre feet from the dam gate. So that's something. So anyhow, we're working through that process now, and we'll come back with the resolution of that loss of water. So progress in the city, I call this out almost every meeting, that in past council sessions, I discussed the critical need of our 4 guiding principles, which is safety, respect, integrity, and teamwork. Along with that, we've really focused on the addition of increased communication and transparency. I do want to call out that I've been making visits to all of the departments to really learn and understand the operations, meet and know the staff, and understand the challenges that they're dealing with. It's perfect timing with budget, because budget requests come through. Also working with the governing body and the director retreat. That was a big success for us because we're building a really strong foundation, which brings us to teamwork. One thing that I have been mentioning to our directors is we cannot operate in the mode of what's in it for me. And if you go to the police department, I walked around the hallway and I have seen signs with WIIFM on it, and the staff have been asking, what the heck is this? So someday I think Chief will share. I want to call out with the progress of the city. I was able to do a full shift with the police department, the fire department. I bring this to, there's no world of community, and all of us are spending time with the police department or fire department. And the reason I call it out is, yes, it's fun and it's exciting. But when I left those two departments, the thing that really stuck out for me is the critical nature of communication. I go to just the fire or the police department. Our officers are in the cars on their own, and they need to make sure that they protect themselves. They have to be very aware of what's taking place using their own skill set. But there's also a huge amount of communication that takes place between the vehicle and the dispatch unit. And so they might ride along, we pull the vehicle over, and automatically the dispatch calling out where we are, what the car looked like, what was the license plate number, and let them know what's happening. Officer goes up to the vehicle and it takes care of the business for whatever the violation may have been. And before we ever pull away from the curb, we get back in the car and call in the dispatch, and again repeat the driver's name, driver's license number, vehicle plate number, and what the violation was. One thing to call out is that the lights were turned on, chest cam, camera, and windshield cameras recording the event. The reason I call this out is the officers out there on their own, they're working on their own, they don't have a person sitting next to them to assist. The communication is so critical to me, maintaining safety. Then I went to the fire department. I did a 24-hour shift, and that was incredible, I will say. But there, the experience, a lot of communication, yet there's something else that stuck out. Going from the one shift, and we went on to shift, there was about a 30-minute meeting to go through what the last shift had gone through, discuss the truck being filled up, or the trucks being filled up, what training needed to continue, what type of reporting needed to continue, just a lot of communication between the shifts. Once the old shift left, we went in on our own, we had another meeting, another 30 minutes to talk about what's going to happen that day. And if anybody thinks that the fire department is sitting on fires all day long, it's not true. I got there at 9 in the morning, and I don't think I sat down until like 6:30 or 7 that night. And we had several calls, and we had a lot of training that took place. They geared me up, put me in a breathing respirator, and it's all very, very interesting. What came out of it, though, is nobody had what's in it for me attitude. The communication level was superior. You have to rely on teams. It's a safety measure there. There was nothing demeaning in the debriefing when I discussed a new firefighter and what skills that they had, what they still needed to be safe and to be able to help their teammates or the citizens that they're rescuing. It was never demeaning. It was a protection measure. The way they relied on each other was amazing. And so I'm going to continue, as long as I'm in this role, pushing my 4 guiding principles: communication, transportation, and know what's in it for me. So I also want to call out more progress at the city. I said earlier that I work closely with the governing body. I was able to go with one of our councilors, Mayor Pro Tem, went out to solid waste. Not everything is hunky-dory and glorious. If you see the picture in the top left, there's a lot of trash out there, and we have problems. We have too few employees. We're not hauling enough trash out to keep up, and it's a real issue that has to be addressed. And so I want to call that out in transparency. it's a mess. So, we also got to run across a rattlesnake over at the airport, that let us kind of get in the mirror. Pro Tim and I got to deal with him. There's also an old truck out there that I want to call out. 1940s, 50s fire truck that's sitting out there. We need to figure out what to do with it. But also the building is the reason we were there. It's an old building, and we're looking now at whether this should be a demolition or a restoration project. And so we'll come forward with that soon. I'm sure my voice is right today. Also, with the governing body, I was able to attend a meeting with the governor last week at Highlands, and we were really talking about the impacts from the fire and how are we doing now? What type of issues are we running into? How can she help us? And in the end, it really became an issue of the city of Las Vegas is very complex and there's a lot happening. We're going to have follow-up meetings so that we get specific help for the city of Las Vegas and not be blending in other entities or other counties. And so that's one more example of how we're working with the governing body. Also, our community outreach, this was brought up earlier, but we did have a ribbon cutting on the 29th for University Avenue. We had several community members there, which is really nice to see. The governing body, Senator Campos was there, Representative Castellano was there, our DOT Commission Chair Adams was there, as well as DOT staff. We also had a lot of city staff there. And we were there to celebrate the beginning of construction and demonstrate our appreciation of the funding that was provided by DOT. And that was a success, and there's just some fun pictures there. Also, on May 2nd at the plaza, we had our day of prayer. Fabiola Sanchez was there. She really served as the MC for the event. Our local priests and pastors were there, the governing body, city staff, and community members. And again, it's another way of bringing us all together. It was a great event. In short, what I'm really trying to say is we're all a team. We have different titles and we have different levels of responsibility, but I look at it rather than being a pyramid or a wheel, and every one of us is a spoke within that wheel, and we're equally important. And we can't take what's in it for me attitude, and so the staff, that's really what I'm working with. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Martinez.
Sounds like you were pretty busy all this time, and I know we talked on a couple of occasions. City manager, you played a big role in trying to be a part of every single aspect of our city, and I applaud you for doing that, especially taking on the role of firefighter or pay guy. But nevertheless, I just want to thank you for reaching out to those departments and taking part and trying to understand how they work. Like you said just earlier, it's so important to understand the needs of these departments, coming up for the restructuring of all your financial needs for the city. So anyway, I applaud you for doing all those things. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Councilors?
Well, I'm glad to see that action went well. I think we still have a lot of stuff that's laid around that we need to get rid of. So hopefully we'll have one before summer's over. On the Mother's Day concert, the music in the park, Friday frescoes, those are all on the website?
Yes, they are. I just checked that.
On the Friday frescoes, can we put that as a newspaper ad? We don't want an ad on the paper. Can we put that on the paper?
Yes.
Because people are always asking, who's going to be playing next Friday? So this way they have they can cut it off the optic and save it, post it on the refrigerator, because people like that. So we can put all the events on there that we're having. I mean, that would be nice. I did have a request that we still need more trash cans along the Guaymas River. The trash cans that day that were clean, they were full. And I know you clean them twice a week, but, I think we need more trash cans in order for us to not have to be picking up so much trash. So, thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Councilor Casey?
I just want to thank Tim for all the work that he does on behalf of the city. He is extremely busy, and I know that he works extra to make sure that everything gets done appropriately, and he's a bit of a perfectionist, I would say, but I think that's a really good thing, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. And I just, I can't add to what everybody already said here, Tim. I think, coming in, sitting down with you and asking you to serve as intern, of course, went through the process, but, your important thing was working as a team. I think me as the mayor, that's getting work part with the governing body, right? This isn't just a one-man show, it's all of us making these decisions together. So when you say, it's good to hear that that's also, now with, hearing the police chief has that, it's going down throughout the city, right? It's not just here us trying to do this, and it's about understanding throughout the community. And that's one thing that I've taken on as mayor now, is that the transparency and the openness, because let's not deny it, there's a lot of lack of trust from the city. This goes back for a while. We've got to restore that at some point. And, thank you, and thank you, Chuck, and everybody that comes out on the radio, because I think it's coming to a point where we're on the radio so often now, but we don't know what to say, right? So, which that's a good thing. So just continue to, to stage the positivity that's going on, and I think that's starting to go within the city. And of course, we're never going to be perfect. And as you said today, right, when you mentioned about the trash, we're going to be honest. There's some messes that continue through the city, but we're not going to deny them. We're not going to hide them. And I think that's what's important that the community needs to know. That you're doing that in strategy, the whole city's understanding. And I know we're never popular guys up here, but knowing that you're going into each department, you're able to bring back the information to us. Now you understand why fire needs certain things, and that's going to happen here. I know you're really excited about the wastewater shift.
Yes.
I think that says a lot, right? It's not you're just going over there and seeing what's going on. It was kind of interesting when I went to the fire department. I went into the office to print some stuff out, and they actually had you weren't just there supervising. You were actually with the broom and sweeping, doing the same thing as any other fire there. When you took your ride along with you didn't sit with the chief, right, in an unmarked car, you got in with the ones, officers that are actually on the on patrol that day. You know what I mean? I know we've the first I was trying to, I know I've taken a ride with the chief, and you don't experience with the patrol officers when you're riding with the chief or with the deputy chief, right? So you're going a little above and beyond, which is good to understand the requirements. We were just building something that it continues again. Everything's not going to go smoothly, but accepting of that, we have problems or we have issues, and what we can do is work as a team to fix that. And if we're ever wrong, and accept that, I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say that. But it's just moving in a positive way. And thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes for April 17th, 2024.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Casey?
I move that we approve the minutes for April 17th, 2024. I did send in some minor corrections to the minutes.
A motion by Councilor Casey, second. Second by Councilman Martinez. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? You guys have it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to presentations with possible direction not to exceed 10 to 15 minutes. We have one presentation by Macy Estep, the San Miguel Early Childhood Coalition Coordinator, speaking on the Noches de Familia in the Park event on May 14th, 2024.
evening, Mayor Romero and council. So I'm here to introduce myself and a little bit about the coalition's work in the community.
Mr. Mayor, could you have her, speak directly into the mic because I can't hear anything she's saying.
Okay, look, I can show her where the mic is.
Can you hear me a little bit better?
Can you hear Councilor Casey? Go ahead and talk.
Hello?
Just
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay,
Just go ahead and talk.
all right.
Yeah, the mic is direction also, it's kind of hard to get it right.
She'll proceed, hopefully.
Okay.
Speaking in the loud energy.
Okay, so I just wanted to introduce the coalition's work in the community and talk a little bit about the importance of outdoor space for children and invite you guys to our upcoming James de Familia in the park. So just a little bit about the coalition. This was an initiative that started in 2021 out of a desire to improve outcomes for children to thrive in our community. This was an initiative with the New Community College, preschool, education director, Highlands, local preschools and daycares, families who wanted to see outcomes improve for children. You know, we started meeting monthly, and then in 2021, there became funding available through the Early Childhood Education Department, also known as ECCD. And so a member of the coalition, Elizabeth Ratzlaff, applied for funding. We were awarded December 2021 with that first grant, and we ran through the summer of 2023, and then we were extended till the summer of this year, and then we reapplied for a new grant, and we actually received that as well. So with the state as well. So we're super excited that we've started this work and we're continuing to get funded. So that's a little bit about us. We meet monthly, grandparents raising grandchildren, families, like I said, home daycares. We're trying to pull in all these directions to talk about early childhood needs in San Bernardino County. And so, like I said, we meet monthly, and as well as doing Noches de Familia once a month, which was a big event around here many years ago, started by Cruz Flores. And so, part of our first grant, we conducted a community needs assessment and then further did a strategic plan. And so in that first initial community needs assessment, a lot of people mentioned wanting, you know, there's some key topics that just kept coming up. The first was access to prenatal and labor services in our community. And then also non-traditional childcare hours, extended hours for families that work in the evenings. And then also more recreational activities for young children and access to outdoor spaces that feel safe, welcoming, and clean. And so recently I've been working with Chuck and reaching out to the city to see how we can partner in moving that piece forward. You know, the outdoor spaces, how can we help families feel safe in our parks, and for, you know, our little babies to feel like they can use the play structures, and there's access for, you know, people that have physical challenges as well. So this brings me to our outdoor space. So that's really why I'm here today, is to talk about how important outdoor spaces are for children. And I really want to appreciate your guys' initiative, you know, the city's initiative to maintain parks and to, you know, bring in new play structures. You know, just in the beginning of our meeting, we heard how much that you guys do. So thank you guys for doing that. And I think the piece that I'd like to talk about today is just an ongoing investment in our parks and making sure that they do feel clean and safe and accessible. Thinking about a single mom with a baby and feeling safe to, get out of the car and go to the playground. What does that look like for her? And so we already know, that outdoor spaces allow children to, have social experiences with other children. They're able to resolve conflicts. They're able to develop social emotional skills. So it's huge. It's not just, oh, let's go have a fun day. It's building so much more than we even realize. And so an investment to improve outdoor space is key for positive outcomes for children. And like I said, I've been working with Chuck to bring Noches to a local park. And so our next Noches is May 14th from 5:30 to 7:30. We've been working to make sure that everything's ready and it's safe. We have food truck coming. So we provide a free meal to families, and we have an activity, and we're gonna have some music, and so definitely a great event. And I wanted to invite you guys to come out and join us. We'd like to present you guys with a small certificate to show you that, we see you guys as a key part of children's outcomes. That outdoor space is huge, and we hope you guys join us.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Casey?
I just want to make a statement here. Macy is an absolute wonderful, amazing, hard-working, innovative, creative woman. And she has partnered with the Literacy Council of Northeastern New Mexico and has joined our group. And through her efforts and grant writing skills, she was able to give us money to buy books for children. We give those books away every year to hundreds of children that are from Las Vegas and the surrounding areas. She has been a wonderful addition to our group, and she has revitalized the group. And I'm so happy that she does all this work through the Early Childhood Coalition. She's done an excellent job, not just for Las Vegas, but for the county. And I'm really honored that she is part of Las Vegas and that she works for our children. So I just want to thank her publicly for all the work that she has done. And just, we are so very fortunate to have her in our community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Casey.
Mr. Mayor, you're definitely an advocate for children, and that's such an important job. Those are the future leaders of our community, our world, and everything else. So I do want to say thank you. I do want to attend this event, and I want you to be, I heard all the information that you said, and I think you hit it right on, spot on, because you want people to feel comfortable being able to enjoy those spaces out there. So, and that's such an important part, especially, having that ability to be local here in town. The events here in town, we want to make sure that there's that communication between the public and council. So I do appreciate what you do. Thank you for presenting today as well.
No, I just want to say thank you for what you do. That's what, children that are brought up in families that care, in the community that care, grow up to be big trees from big seeds. What can we do to help you out? City of Las Vegas.
So I did forget to say that in my little speech, so thank you for bringing that up. I had thought of, having our coalition and family input be a part of, planning and guiding future improvements to the park, maybe having that conversation to say, what do you want? What do you want to see here? What's important to you? For improving parks and for the Riverwalk. In the past, I had met with the city manager, and we had talked about maybe bringing in a music play area for the kids on the Riverwalk. So just ideas like that where it's, family and community-led initiatives. So if that's a possibility.
Well, we have a tree committee, it's pretty alive and well. We also have the recreation committee, and they all meet once a month. And you're more than welcome to join any of those meetings and give your input. There's a lot going on in our parks and in the future. Benches are being installed. Hopefully, we'll find funding for other playground equipment for other parks. We have a couple of gateways that we're going to be bringing in hopefully for Candace River. So there's some things that are still happening. We have in the last year or two put in some playground equipment. We have put in park benches. We have put in some trash cans in some parks and so forth. We have tried to improve our quality of life in our city parks. Just remember that we do have 28 of them, so it's a task, and there's limited funding. But yeah, please join us on those committees and give us your input as to what those age levels need and what is required in our parks, and we'd be glad to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it makes it just in closing, just thank you for reaching out to me. Kind of familiar with your work and with your work, but I think the important part here is that as we continue to move forward, we continue to talk about community, and that's the only way, by having these events and whatever the city can do to be a part of that. I think and I go back maybe 10, 15 years, we kind of just kept to the city stuff and didn't involve the community too much, and that's the big emphasis of this governing body has stressed, right, is when you bring community, I mean, remember the days growing up, right? So many things going on. You see your neighbors, you talk to your neighbors, and now we become a society that there's no trust amongst the community. Partnering with you guys and whatever we can do. And I think you have major advocates in education, re-education, myself and Mr. Councilman Martinez, our school board members, so we know exactly the work you're doing. Councilman, Pro Tem Montoya, his wife was a counselor for so many years, Councilor Casey. In her education background, Councilman in the body, he has teachers, his daughter, they're educators, so we have a perfect opportunity to continue that. Whatever we can do to build this community up, build the trust, and build the camaraderie that we used to have, we need to do whatever we are. And thank you, Chuck, it's good to hear, the good things that you're working with them, and the investment. It's always good to hear positivity coming out, the investments that we do, because sometimes we don't get that. We come to these meetings and we hear all the negative. And so hearing you saying, well, we know that we're doing, but to hear it from somebody else means a lot, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if you can, please extend a thank you to Ms. Elizabeth Vasquez as well. I know she's done a lot for, the books and all of that come through, everybody's, children's hands, and, we do appreciate seeing all that. So extend that, thank you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, our consent agenda, we have no items for that. Moving on to our business items. Item number 1, present, review, discuss, and potential action on city in support of New Mexico Environment Department proposed water reuse, water regulation by Gloria Geoscience Incorporated. We have our interim utilities director, Mr. Travis Martinez.
Mayor, I may add also, thank you, sir. With some of the events that have been happening within utilities, I received an email that brought up water reuse maybe some potential opportunities the city could have participating with geosciences. And when I read the email, I have to admit it was something that I wasn't familiar with. It's not something that had been in my time frame. I didn't recall these discussions taking place at the council. And so my whole intent has been communication and transparency. And so I did reach out to Gloria Geosciences on this email to just discuss further. It does include the city, the presentation that will be provided. I asked them to come in and really just give us an overview of the content of this email and the direction that they were trying to go, because I think council needs to hear this messaging. And so I invited them in.
Mayor, Councilman, this gentleman right here will be doing the presentation, and this will be the city in support of the New Mexico Environment Department proposed water reuse, water regulations. So I'll go ahead and pass it off.
Thank you, Travis. Mayor, Council, I'm Jay Lazarus with Gloria Geoscience. Good evening. This item is specifically related to the New Mexico Environment Department's development of water reuse regulations. Specifically, it's one of the initiatives of the governor's office. We have been working since the fire with the Environment Department to help them and make suggestions on potential water reuse regulations. The regulations up for the hearing starting next week are dominantly oil and gas oriented. It's the reuse of fracking water and other oil field wastewater that is currently either evaporated or re-injected into the ground. We work very closely with the Environment Department on development of these regulations, and at this point in time, they are not looking at municipal or domestic reuse regulations. It's focusing specifically on, like I said, oil and gas. However, one of the city's requests to the department, and we've been working with John Roderick, the Water Protection Division Director, and being able to implement a pilot project should the city wish to go forward with that. And the Environment Department included the pilot project recommendation or allowances in proposed regulations. We are not proposing any specific project. All we're asking council for is authorization to present this testimony to the department in support of these proposed regulations. And I'll be happy to stand for any questions. Thank you.
Yes, Jay, I'm the newest member of the council, of course, tonight. I don't have the most knowledge of it. I just, in researching a lot of this stuff, a lot of this information that's been going back and forth, I'm not really sure if council ever got the ability to vote on something, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think there was probably information going back between, I think, your parties and the present mayor, the former mayor and city manager at the time. And I'm just not too sure if the city has agreed, or I should say the council has agreed to move forward with any of these projects. I don't know if there's these projects, as far as I can tell, this is all for human consumption, correct?
No, sir. No, Councilor.
It is not for human consumption.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Martinez, we are not proposing that the city move forward with any project.
Okay.
We are proposing that the city endorse the Environment Department's efforts to implement water reuse regulations. There is no specific project involved in this item, or any project.
Okay, so how long ago has this started? I guess maybe I should ask that question. When did this get proposed?
These proposed regulations?
No, this whole thing with the water reuse, when did this get proposed as an item to move forward to, get, I guess, maybe get some kind of consideration by the Environmental Department and so forth? When did all this happen? How did this happen?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Martinez, it's a bunch of questions at once, so I'll try and answer them. This was originally proposed to the city when Governor Lujan Grisham was here about 6 months after the fire occurred. And it was in a presentation that was made to the council and Governor Lujan Grisham at the time. The Environment Department has been working on these regulations. I'm guessing I can't give you an exact time, Counselor, but the Environment Department has been working on these regulations for at least a year, and these regulations are something that the governor's office has been a strong proponent of, and the department has been following the governor's lead on. But once again, all we're asking for is the council's support to support the Environment Department developing regulations. This is not asking for approval of any kind of project.
So at this point, there is no regulations set forth by the state of New Mexico to do this kind of stuff?
That is correct, Councilor.
I guess, in my mind, I just wouldn't want to be the first. It's like buying the first Pinto, or Pinto or something. I don't want to be, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of the entire council, of course, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself, saying, why would I want to partake in something that we're not sure of? And, it hasn't been proven to work. I know the next step is going out there and getting approval by, the Environment Department and so forth, but I'm leery about it. I don't know enough about it. I've read, like I said, emails back and forth, and I understand it, to some degree, but being the newest guy in the field, that's why I asked so many questions.
Councilman Martinez, can I say something real quick? Doing all the research and working with this gentleman here on the testimony for the reuse water regulation, there are other states that have already been doing this. Us is just right now to move forward with NMED, moving forward on the reuse water regulation. So that way, if the city or anything ever wants to partake in the near future with any projects at the direction of the governing body, at least we'll take that initiative right now instead of moving 2 steps back if we ever do plan to do something like this in the near future.
So James, real quick, now hearing this and also reading the governor when I first took office, is this testimony having to do, I know she's promoting the reuse of brackish water and fracking water and stuff like that. Is this tied to that also?
Mr. Mayor, that's exactly what this is tied to. This round of regulations is, is specific for the oil and gas industry. Reuse for human consumption, those regulations are down the road a lot.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Casey.
Thank you. I think that this request or the testimony that was given is putting the cart before the horse. And I say that because it says at this time the proposed regulations do not fully allow the permitting of either direct or indirect municipal reuse, and subsequent regulations will be developed later after these. So what they're saying is that, we want the permit to go ahead and make regulations. I think the regulations should be made first, and then we can look at them and examine them and think about them, and see how it will affect our drinking water. So I think the thing should be done backwards in my opinion. And this is, when I hear Aguacula, I think of effluent water being cleaned up to make it potable. And if they don't have that kind of regulation in place, then I think saying, oh yeah, we want this, go ahead and make, let's support they should have regulations first, that we can look at, see if we can abide by those regulations, if we decide, we so desire, and then approve, whatever needs to be done. But I cannot support this as it is.
So Jay, Councilman.
So I guess I'm in very much agreement with Councilor Casey, but on page 3 of the testimony of support, it does say that at one point here, in the recently, I guess in the last few years, the city experienced several water shortages that, permitted only about 20 days of drinking water left. Okay, and I understand that. But I don't think anything was considered, as far as I can tell by the documents that I read, nothing is talked about as far as the Taylor Well area. And to me, that's a part of our city water system, okay? And I understand the reservoirs, we got the reservoirs that we got, to provide city water, clean, fresh water for our citizens. But nobody has ever talked about the Taylor Well field. And I don't know if that was ever voted out to talk about it, or I don't know. I'm trying to get more information as well, but just based on what it is, I'm gonna go with, I want to be in support of, Councilor Casey, and just say that I think that we're putting the cart before the horse. I think those regulations by this time, 2024, should be somewhat in place. So.
Mayor, Councilman, just a little bit of information on the Taylor Wells. It has enough water to produce, I believe, 20 days to the city, if possible. Also, that Taylor Well number 7 does have brackish water, which is part of the regulations that we are going to with any ED, so just a little bit of information.
So,
And if I may add, Mayor, Councilor Martinez, the Taylor Well field is at best a limited backup supply for a short period of time. And it takes months, if not years, for the water levels to recover after it is pumped out.
So, Mr. Lezer, so this testimony is, this all started really because of the shortage of water. And no one, are there other cities that are joining you on this? What cities are there?
At this point in time, in terms of joining us on this, this is regulatory development. The way that the Environment Department develops regulations is to reach out to the regulated community, ask for input, and then they go an iterative process between the department and the regulated community on developing the regulations. Then the department proposes regulations to the Water Quality Control Commission. Those hearings will start next Monday. So the Water Quality Control Commission will go probably 4 days or more listening to testimony regarding these proposed regulations. But the way it works is that the department, like I said, interacts with the regulated community, proposes regulations, and then the Water Quality Control Commission accepts testimony on the proposed regulations, whether it's for this, the groundwater discharge permit changes, or anything else that the Water Quality Control Commission has authority over.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Lezer. So let me ask you a different way. So is there any other city that's asking for regulation on this?
I don't know specifically what other cities the department has been working with on this. We'll know that next week during the hearing.
And this was all due to the shortage of water that we went through now during the fires.
That's correct.
And according to this testimony, it's moving forward, creating a regulation for permitting all types of water reuse projects.
This is the first step in creating the regulations for all types of reuse projects, and the specific request that the city made at the time to the department was to allow pilot projects, experimental projects, to go forward under this portion of the regulation. But the city's not proposing any project under this regulation. We've worked with the department for at least a year, and we're trying to support their regulatory development.
Okay, so on page 4, how come it indicates the facility was initially designed as an advanced wastewater treatment facility called Agua, which would be utilized for indirect potable reuse and an environmental buffer to produce up to 1 million gallons of water, of high quality drinking water.
Good. The city contracted with Stantec Engineers to do the preliminary engineering report and preliminary design of an Agua Pura project.
So there is a project.
There's no project that has been authorized. It was a preliminary engineering report.
It still goes through plan design and stuff like that.
And Mr. Lazarek, so when we put in the influent water line 18 years ago, when we ran into our parks, to our community, there was no regulation to reuse. So we went and asked for the same process. And they made regulations in order for us to use it and save millions of water gallons in our parks, drinking water.
Okay. Council Montoya, with all due respect, I've been working on reuse of treated sewage effluent, reuse of treated wastewater since 1982. No specific regulations. You apply for a groundwater discharge permit to the New Mexico Environment Department, and as part of your permit, they give you permit conditions as part of the approval of your permit. So no specific regulation is there. It is permit by permit evaluated by the Environment Department. So like I said, I've been working on it since 1982.
So Mr. Martinez, this is just a permit that we just got to get every year. It's not, there's no regulation for it. Then how do we tell the public that it's okay for the kids to play in the parks? There's no regulation on it.
So right now, the city does the DP 1118, which is every 5 years. And every time we do submit it, there are regulations that the city does have to abide by. And just to let you know, it's, you can't have it around kids, cattle, pretty much animals. You can't let the water flow over, it can't be going down. So there are.
I understand that, but they make the regulation.
Yes.
You say there's no regulation?
Councilor Montoya, it's a permit under Water Quality Control Commission regulations.
So tell us, if we support this tonight, and you take it before that board up there next week or whenever, what would be the next process to it if it would pass?
If it would pass, the next step is the department developing regulations for indirect and direct potable water reuse. This is oil and gas centric.
And for instance, this could be used for rainwater off the roof or surface water down the street.
I don't believe it'd be used. The Environment Department won't regulate rainwater. Currently, our drinking water plant treats Gallinas River water with all sorts of fecal material in it from the wildlife up the canyon. Okay, so we're already effectively treating, it's not reused treated wastewater, but it is treating water that has animals defecating and urinating in it. And we're treating and drinking that water.
So Jake, let me ask you this. I can see the council's concern on this, and now, having that conversation with the governor, November, December that it was. This testimony here, right here, that we have, copies of, it was disheartening that we didn't know about the testimony and everything that was moving forward, right? And again, here we are in being transparent, to the governing body, and it was, the city manager could easily say, well, go on, proceed, whatever, right? But again, just to bring awareness to the governing body and to the public of what was going on. But now what I'm seeing is, I think what we focused on, and even I'm guilty in this, we focused on the Agua Pura right now, and we need to look more as being involved in the actual test, and let's take Agua Pura out of this, let's take it out of the picture. There's right now the brackish water, that right now there's no regulations for, right? Like any brackish water, I know that's one of the communities. Why can't we treat brackish water? We know there's brackish water in the area, but right now there's no regulations. So right now, even if we give, so the testimonial we put here in this paper, can we make it more vague where we want input and we testify in a whole scope, not just, and as Councilman Montoya said in this testimony, we got big staff, I understand where you're getting at and having the input before regulations are made. Can we more broadly scope that so we are involved in the process of the regulations versus focusing on, I know that's not what the focus is, but can we make it more broadly where we're supportive of all aspects of reuse?
Mr. Mayor, I think my short answer is yes. And maybe my longer answer is, I really believe it's important for the city to be in the forefront on any water issue that comes along. Okay? Because we've all suffered through drought conservation, fire, drought conservation. Okay? I think the city really needs to be in the forefront of any regulatory effort that would allow the city in the future to use the water it already owns and be able to provide that water to our citizens. And if council wants to trim this testimony back, this testimony, I think as the city manager alluded to, this testimony was prepared for the utilities director that's on leave right now. And Travis was basically put into the position of saying, this is all about a deadline, okay? It's not about trying to do something quickly. It was all about a deadline to turn in pre-filed technical testimony by April 15th, and given the change in personnel, it made it both difficult and awkward. Okay? And right now, the hearings start next week, and if council wants to, which I would urge council to always be supportive of any regulations that could increase the city's water supply. And if council wants the language in here changed, we're totally open to it. Like I said, this was prepared for the previous utilities director, and things have changed. I understand that.
You see, Mr. Lazar, you're on city clock today, right?
Yes, sir.
See, that's the heartburn that we get up here, is that this document, you're going to be just giving a testimony, or somebody is, on behalf of the city of Las Vegas. And this mayor and this council, we have no idea what's going on. And that's why we have heartburn. Yeah, the utilities director knew about it, and I guess it was okay with her and the whole works. Maybe that's part, she thought it was part of her job or whatever. No matter. But when you represent the city of Las Vegas and entire as a whole, I mean, this governing body needs to know what's going on. And on something like this, we had to know about it, and this hadn't been brought before us. I mean, this is a good thing, don't get me wrong. But the fact is that the process And being transparent with us is number one. Because, we are finding out a lot of stuff like this that have been going on, which I don't appreciate, and I imagine my fellow councilman, mayor don't either. But, I'm in support of something like this. I think it's something that needs to be done. I think that's where the future is going. I just attended the mainstream commission that had a meeting here this week, and those are the kind of ideas that they're looking at, and they're ahead of it. And any ideas, or they're looking at where we can find water, period, for the future of New Mexico, because we live in a desert. And with our fire, we're not promised anything from FEMA, or we're not promised anything from future monsoon seasons. So I think, the Agua Pura thing, again, I agree with Councilor Casey that they put the cart before the horse on that one, because that's another one that we weren't aware of, and this governing body didn't give direction. Maybe somebody did previously at another administration up at the top, but this governing body never gave that. So that's something that should come back to us if it's still a procedure. But I think there was just a lot of misunderstanding on this, and I think it's something that we ought to be looking into, and I think that's where the future is going to be coming along. If you want growth, and if you want to sustain what you have, to get the water tap on, look at the millions of gallons that we saved when we did the infinite water line. A lot of people were opposing that. A lot of people said, I'm not going to take my kid to the park, and nothing's happening, nobody's dying. It's everybody goes and picks up. I do it myself. I pick up water at 12th Street and take it and water my trees and the grass. So I think this is something that we can't close our eyes to, and it's something that we gotta look into. We're not committed to anything, and let's see what happens with the regulations and all that. Where New Mexico goes. We might be the first ones. Yeah. Mr. Martinez, I think, it always takes somebody to be the first one to take the lead. Other cities will follow. They have projects that they want to put on the water down the road, which they do, because Santa Fe, Albuquerque, they don't have water. So
councilors, if I can just say this, as we move forward, I know, but I think we need to stay open as to being involved in testifying and the issues and the opportunity to brackish water, and we don't have the convenience of having fracking water, but in the general scope of the regulations of reefs, I think we have to have a seat and have some input into the regulations. I think we need to not, this is my opinion right now, in my opinion, not commit to any specific project, but I think the testimony is very important.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Dazzle, you obviously have years of experience doing study of this, and I appreciate your education and your part as far as being involved. What I have a hard time is when there's a time frame for one, okay? And that time frame is putting us in a position where we're having to make a decision at this current moment. And with your experience in this field, I don't think, you've worked with municipalities before, correct?
Yes, Councilor.
Okay, so if you worked with municipalities before, why was the council never, why was this never brought to the councilor and left to the utility director at the time? I don't understand that. I just don't understand that.
Mr. Mayor,
If I
Councilor,
could jump in, I think it's personnel. You know, I think the important part is right now, we're at this point, a decision needs to be made, if we proceed the way it was, or if we not enter the governing body, which is important, as Pro Tem Montoya said, you know, it had basically the city of Las Vegas, which isn't a director, isn't an employee, isn't a contractor. When it says city of Las Vegas, it's the governing body. And I think that's the important part that we gotta remember is when commitments are made on behalf of the city of Las Vegas, the governing body should be aware. And I think that's the important part. As we move forward with this, we know where we're at, and that's where the decision is. Do we continue with the testimony with our, and it's not our testimony, it's gonna have to be, you know, now, Jade and Travis, so that's what the decision is. But
It's just in support of NMED with the reuse regulation. So I mean, if the city ever goes forward with any type of project moving forward, then of course we have that regulation and we actually back up NME, or not back up, supported NMED in this endeavor. So like, Mayor said, just forget the projects that we have in our mind. And this is just to support NMED and reuse regulation. Because working with water treatment plant and working with wastewater treatment plant, the state, EPA, everybody, they're so hard up on the regulations that we don't know when they're ever gonna change. Because, you know, we're borderline on everything, especially with the water we have now, so in doing this endeavor, it might come down to that the state might impose that on us in the future, we don't know. And like I said, this is just a testimony to support NMED. Other than that, this has nothing to do with any of the other projects or anything like that. So if the city does ever go in that direction, it's just that we were there to support the new reuse regulations imposed by NMED, New Mexico Environmental.
and Mr. Mayor, Councilor Martinez, to answer your question, right now, Taos, Espanola, and Los Alamos discharge their treated wastewater to the Rio Grande. Santa Fe picks it up at the Buckman Direct Diversion on the Rio Grande, treats it to drinking water standards, discharges it back to the Rio Grande, where Albuquerque picks it up at their surface water diversion. So it's already happening in the state.
No, and I understand,
Please.
the hard part for me to understand is it's been brought to council at this point, and the deadline is very near, okay? And, you know, that's where I have a little hard time, because we haven't had, you know, enough input, you know, there hasn't been enough communication with council, mayor and council, to be able to get, to try to understand this better, okay? I'm not against any possibility of moving forward with making sure that water is a good quality of life that we can continue to have in our community. Of course not. I will always support trying to do the best thing for our community, but it's, now we've got a deadline ahead of us. And how would that be, why would that be fair to us?
Councilor Martinez, I hear you loud and clear, and I agree with you, okay? But we, as contracts in the city, do not bring items to city council to make decisions on, okay? It is the city manager or the division directors that make that decision to bring it to council. We make recommendations, sometimes they take them, sometimes they don't, but we support what the folks that we're working for ask us to do. I hear you loud and clear, Councilor Martinez, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. To me, this is just, we're going to the department, we're supporting your regulations, because down the line, we may need their help on something. And they'll remember that we supported their regulatory development. Those kinds of things, as you know, are important.
Okay, so moving forward, just like, you know, the other councilors have agreed, maybe we can move forward with something. What language would be left out of this document moving forward as we proceed with, you know, the timeframe and so forth?
We could take out the language, I think as Councilor Montoya said, we could take out the Agua Pura specific language. And then that way, it's solely regulatory, and we're suggesting tightening up some of their definitions. Okay, but that's just a scientist saying, your definitions need to be tightened up a little bit here. But we could do this testimony and remove the Agua Pura references.
So with that, we'll entertain a motion for action on how to move forward with this.
Make a motion that we support the testimony for the proposal on water and surface water protection supplements and partners for water reuse.
Motion by Councilman Martinez, by Pro Tem Montoya. And second. Again, I have a motion by Pro Tem Montoya. Any amendments to the motion? Last call, I have a motion by Pro Tem Montoya. Do I have a second? Motion dies for testimony. Any other motions? And then I'll just say this, if we could maybe, entertain a motion to approve the testimony, removing Agua Pura from any testimony whatsoever.
I'll make that motion too.
Motion by Jeda.
Removing the Agua Pura.
Yes, from one testimony. So I have a motion by Pro Tem Montoya. Have a second?
Mayor, I guess I want to hear information, or maybe more from Councilor Casey and see what, how she feels about moving forward with this, but you know,
Can I say something real quick, Mayor and Councilman?
Councilor, we have a motion. Before I entertain any discussion, that to be a second. But I'll go ahead and Councilor Casey. Councilor.
I heard what you said, and I haven't changed my mind. I really think that it's putting, they're counting on us to say, okay, go ahead and do this so that the regulations can be made. And maybe I'm reading that incorrectly, but I don't think so. And so I don't completely trust the process. I think that the regulations should be made first. And we should have some input into how those regulations are going to affect our water system and what we can do. We need to be very careful what is done. And the Agua Pura portion was never voted on by the council that I can remember. And I have not missed a council meeting at all, ever. And so I know that we have not voted on that, and we have not had discussion on it. And so I think this is too fast. I also have concerns about no one from Las Vegas. I don't know who the person was that did the testimony, but I don't know that person. I don't know what their interest is, and I have concerns about that too. So my vote is still going to be no, whether another second comes later now or whatever. I just also comfortable with the way things have been done.
Thank you, Councilor Casey. So with that, one more time, a motion by Pro Tem Montoya. The second. Motion dies.
Moving on to business item number 2, request approval of encroachment agreement between the city of Las Vegas and Rosemarie Padilla. We have our community development director.
Did you want them to come up here?
Any questions? Go ahead.
You want them to come up here as well, or?
If there's any questions.
Yeah, that's fine. Mayor, Council, good evening. Just to bring everybody up to speed, this item was brought to the last council meeting. However, it was tabled. due to, I believe, some notices not being sent out in time. So we went ahead and did it over, but just to bring everybody up to speed on the case itself and how we're here, Ms. Padilla had approached the city of Las Vegas for a lot line adjustment to her property. She wanted to make sure that all her properties were protected in case of any type of emergency. However, when she did her survey, she went ahead and found that during that survey there was a garage that had been built and it was outside of her property line. Measurements are ready to be approximately 9 feet into city right of way. And I want to go ahead and give a little bit of pros and then maybe a little bit of cons after that. The first pro is, of course, Ms. Padilla lives on a property that abuts an arroyo, and she's the last house on the street. There is, I guess, a dead end, really much of a street there. So there's no other passage through there whatsoever. So there's still 25 feet of city right of way between her garage, that's in 9 feet of city right of way, to the back of the curb. So there's still plenty of room between both areas. My first suggestion, and I still want to revisit this eventually with Ms. Padilla, was to go ahead and come to some kind of conclusion or attempt to make it right for her. And I wanted to see if the city would go ahead and sell her the 9 feet. That was my first proposal. However, there's a P&M pole that sits in the center of those 9 feet, and I don't know if the easements with P&M would be correct. So those are the pros on Ms. Padilla. She's been very forthcoming and coming over here and getting all these things done. Every piece of paperwork that we've asked her to do, her and Mr. Mathis have complied and done everything right away. The cons on this thing are, of course, that it's 9 feet in city right of way, and it was built without a building permit. So the garage does stand as an illegal structure within the city right of way. And with that, I want to make sure that Mr. Mathis has time to speak. As long as
you're able to hear, Mr. Marcus.
Yes, I am.
If it's okay and the pleasure of the board, I go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Mathis to go ahead and speak on Ms. Padilla's behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Eugenio Mathis. I represent Rose and Carlos Padilla. This property is where Rose grew up. She's lived there 2/3 of her life. I'm going to disclose her age, so she'll get upset with me. But these individuals have lived there a long time. I put together a little presentation, councilors. It'll be very brief. I know you have important items to discuss. But this is a request. We're not here because the Planning and Zoning Commission denied my client's application. We're here because they approved it. So this whole process has been vetted by your Planning and Zoning Commission. They've heard all the arguments for and against the encroachment agreement, and they approved it back on December 27th of 2020. And it was a unanimous vote. So next slide, please. Anyway, it's my first attempt at a PowerPoint and I blew it. Anyway, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as I mentioned before, this whole process has been thoroughly vetted and approval has been granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission. This encroachment, as Mr. Marquez has indicated, does not interfere in any way with traffic or the public right of way. So there, the small amount of traffic, vehicle traffic that occurs is only for the residents that live on the east side of New Mexico Avenues. At the very end of New Mexico Avenue, maybe you can familiarize yourself by knowing that it's across the street from the West Las Vegas Transportation Hub, where they park all their buses. So there's maybe 4 houses that are in that area. We had letters from 3 of the Padilla's neighbors indicating they have no objection and indicating that the traffic there is minimal. There's not a sidewalk that is on the city right away, so the encroachment would not interfere with any pedestrian traffic whatsoever. I think one of the things that I would like for you to consider is that there's a disproportionate inconvenience to the Padillas if the encroachment were not granted. It would cost them, about $28,000. We received an, estimate from, the street construction company, that it would cost about a little bit north of $28,000 for them to remove those structures. There was a concern at the last meeting about a precedent being set, and I'm not sure exactly what that meant. So I did some research into the number of encroachments that the city council has approved within the last 3 years. There's been 5, and 3 of them have occurred in the last 6 months. So this is not a situation where you're breaking new ground and allowing a precedent where perhaps you may have denied it to others. So, and of course, the neighbors support that. I have the letters here. They're in my slides, PowerPoint presentation. So there's support among their neighbors for this. So it's a relatively simple matter in our opinion, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Ms. Padilla would be, and Mr. Padilla, would likely Ms. Padilla would be willing to answer any questions that you may have. The encroachment agreement that has been submitted is identical verbatim to encroachment agreements that have previously been approved by the city council. We followed that, and I want to tell you that Mr. Marquez has been extremely helpful. I think he came in at a difficult time for his department. He's done yeoman's work. He's been cooperative. He responds to texts. He responds to emails. He's intelligent and he knows what he's doing. And I want to commend him for the assistance that he's provided to me and to my clients in getting this matter before you. So that's the extent of our presentation, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. If you have any questions of me or Ms. Padilla, we stand ready to answer those questions.
Councilors, any questions?
Mr. Mayor, hi, Ms. Padilla. Yeah, the question I have would be maybe to the community development director, which would be Lucas. Lucas, you mentioned earlier about power poles and stuff like that. Is there an issue with encroachment in that area?
Right now, where the garage sits compared to the power pole, no. And actually, the power pole that's in front of Ms. Padilla's house is the last pole on the block. The power lines then shoot east over her property. So that's why I kind of want to revisit that, maybe a proposal of selling those 9 feet to Ms. Padilla as it goes along.
And I do know the area, and I do understand where she lives. I guess the hard part, I always want to be a person that can help the community, for one. There also are guidelines that we need to follow. I mean, those guidelines were kind of missed a couple of times by Ms. Padilla not, requesting a permit to do such a structure or maybe even a contractor that did the work. So I'm not saying that, and I also know that it's at the very tail end of the street, okay? So, and I don't know if there's ever going to be development in that area, so I also consider all those things. That as long as the other utilities are going to be affected, that's where and I also know that, the committee went ahead and agreed to okay this. So, I just wanted to be clear on utilities, number one,
Sure.
and so forth.
The Mayor Council, utilities are going to be on the west side of the street, opposite side of the street from Ms. Padilla. So definitely she's not in any of the utilities ways. The main lines anyways, sewer line from behind, there's a small sewer line behind her house in the alley, up a ways, I believe. And then the water and gas are on the west side of the street.
Can I say something?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, well, I want to start from the very beginning. Why all this occurred and why the encroachment was because all I wanted was to divide my land. Because I live here in a double wide and my sister lives here. And then right here is an empty lot. And we pay taxes together with the 2 mobile homes. It comes together with me and my sister. And then the empty lot comes together with me and my sister. But for the future generations, I would like to divide the land this way, so all my property is here and my sister's is here. So we could both get our taxes separately. And especially for the future generation, when we're not here, so they're not fighting and this and that. So that's how it started. That's all I wanted. But then I had to get a surveyor, and that's when I found that. And so I started all this project that I was doing probably since like 2018. That's how long I've been doing this. I went into the city and I was talking to Maria. And I dealt with Maria a lot. And it was a turnaround. I never got anything done. And she kept telling me that utilities have to sign on it. We have to set you a meeting to go to, which she always canceled. And that's how long this has been going on. And then, so finally, at the very end of my conversations with Maria, she finally told me that I needed a lawyer. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me that like a long time ago? And I could have got a lawyer. And then she also told me that the city does not have a city attorney. So I would have to get my own. So I said, okay. So then I went back to ask more questions, found out she was gone. She had quit. And there was nobody to help me in the office. So I had to wait again till they finally hired Lucas, thank God. And him and Charles have been great, very good employees. And they've helped me a lot, and I finally started getting somewhere. And so this was a whole nightmare, which I never thought I was gonna deal with, because all I wanted to do was divide my land for the taxes to come separately. That's all I wanted. And I've had to deal with this for years. And so I just wanted you to know why that encroachment came up and what the reason was. All I wanted was to separate the land.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla. Councilors?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Casey.
we have an ordinance for the city that says that if you're going to add or do any work to your property, you have to get a permit. That has been in place for a long time. And I don't want to be ugly here, but I think that maybe the planning and zoning commission needs to review that ordinance, because they don't look for everything that comes before them. And I'm sorry, but the permit should have happened, and it didn't. And although Mrs. Padilla has been working on this for a long time, someone along the line should have told her to get a permit. She should have asked, do I need a permit? What else do I need to do? And so, I don't know, 9 feet is a lot of land. And I like Mr. Marcus's suggestion that she buy it from the city. But I think that we need to, there are so many homes that have been added to, so many properties that have built or put in other buildings on their property without ever getting a permit. And I think that we need to buckle down on that. And do what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get a permit. People need to know that. And I think a lot of them do. Contractors should have said, you know, where is your permit? You need to get a permit. And so I have a problem with this. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
And one more thing, yes, I do agree, I'm sorry, we didn't get a permit, you know. But I did bring pictures because maybe some of you don't know exactly where I live, and I brought pictures so you could actually see that there's nothing there. There's a vacant house on the other side of me, which the school owns. And then there's a dead end where I have some new neighbors going up the street. They're the only ones that go up there. And the projects on the other side, there's an arroyo there, so there's never gonna be nothing else there. The school has done
I'm
that.
sorry, but I grew up in that area, and I know exactly where it is. And there, to me, you can't just assume that nothing is going to be developed in that way, because you have the Head Start and other, you have the school, you have East Hampton Park Elementary close by. That road that goes right there could easily, someday become a part of the, infrastructure that will be placed there to join the road that, leaves the Head Start area, go towards the cemetery. So, I think that that's kind of, stretching what might or may not happen.
Thank you, Councilor. Open up the floor to, Deputy.
So how long is that carport? What's the measurements?
There's actually two structures, Councilman, one's a carport and the other's a garage. The garage is the carport is one of those standalone carports, but it has a foundation, cement foundation. I can't tell you what the dimensions are. All I can tell you is that it's a substantial distance from the curb, along the right of way.
So does a full-size car fit in the carport? No. Garage.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So 20 feet. Okay. So you never got a permit. The contractor didn't have a license.
It was just, Floyd's rental that went in.
No, sir. They're a business. So they need a contractor's license to sell ever, to both sell or install. You really protect yourself. Anyway, so our director, Mr. Marquez, you said you'd be willing to look at selling her the 9 feet. Now, does that go from the electrical pole all the way to the end of her property at the arroyo?
So the electrical pole, sir, starts at the previous property, right at the corner of that property, and it's about, I'd say, another 20 feet away from her garage. So there's plenty of room in between there, and like I said, that's the last pole on the block, and the power lines again shoot east after that. So I mean, I think there's maybe a possibility of seeing if we don't encroach on P&M's easement. I don't know what their future endeavors are. I don't know if they're gonna ever intend on going
So if you
north
tell
or south.
her, if you try and sell her some property, it'd be 9 feet wide, how long? From the first end of the property on the south side, all the way to the north side, how long is that?
So unfortunately, Mayor and Council, I don't want to lie to you guys about the measurements. I didn't measure that, sir, but I could definitely find out what the measurements are and get you those measurements as soon as
I'm
possible.
gonna estimate it's 400 feet. So are you selling her just for the 9 feet where the carport is at, or all the way to the end?
I would encourage that we tell the way the answer.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so, I'm glad there's no utilities there. And I'm glad you're the last person there, because nothing's gonna be developed on the oil. And if it is, it's gonna be developed through the other road, through the health center this way. So I'm not concerned about that. And you are right, Mr. Mathis, we have done some variances that we have approved for the betterment of the public. And I think we have another one tonight, that we have to deal with. But, I say if P&M, you don't know if P&M has a right of way there or not.
No, sir, I don't. I don't know if they'll go any further than the last pole that they have. I don't know if they're gonna go more out. So I have to get with their engineering staff and see what their future plans are, or if there's any future plans in that area, sir.
How much further does that street go?
From her house, she owns the vacant land that goes up to the arroyo. And from her house to the end of the street, it's another 40 feet, 50 feet. Yeah.
So they probably have a cement up to 40 feet, as long as the street is. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Martinez.
You know, I kind of, stop and think about the department that Lucas runs. There's probably been a big disconnect for a lot of years between the city of Las Vegas and the public, okay? And it's been going on for years. I mean, that the public should know, yes, but I don't think we're being, we need to go back to transparency. Let's get out there and explain to the public, hey, this is what needs to go forward and this is what needs to go on. But, the idea is to educate the public to go ahead and do something about permits, okay? There's been that big disconnect. It's been there for some time. We need to be proactive in making sure that moving forward, community development goes in and gets on the air and explains to teams, to individuals out there that certain permits are required. And the reason why, if you look at the devastation that people are getting paid for nowadays, to FEMA and so forth, people are doing things to their homes. They're wanting to maybe make an addition, maybe, a fence. Those little things even do require permits. And, what was the permit amount for something like this anyway?
What it would go for, how much?
What would it go for
Every permit goes off of a valuation process, sir. So let's say she would have said it would have cost, just as an example, she would have said it cost $2,000. It probably would have been $32.50. Then anything above that, of course, it rises and rises until we get to our maximum level, which is into the 100,000.
Okay, Mayor, I just wanted to state that, because moving forward, we have to take care of it. We have to try to work with our community, number one. I think that's such a big, important piece. But I know this has already taken place. What do we do now? Well, let's put it up for a vote. I think that's probably what we need to do.
Mr. Mayor, may I just address a couple of things very quickly?
Let me have you ask the first one, I'll let you. So there's no option to cut it back 9 foot and agree or approve the enforcement setback?
Cut back the garage or?
Cut back the garage 9 feet and accept the setback.
So, but if we would eliminate 9 feet of the garage, sir, she would lose the garage. She would lose the garage. There probably maybe 4 feet after the garage.
The garage is constructed at an angle so that relative to the right of way, it would not be a any cut. I'm sorry. Two things. One is in each of the previous, the last 3 encroachments that are approved in the last 6 months, they all involve a structure that encroaches upon city property. All of them. I haven't researched the extent to which there's been an encroachment, but that's been the situation. So I just think it's unfair to set precedent with this family, these people, lifelong residents, with that. And I agree with the concerns of the city council with regard to permitting, but these people are innocent in that process. They rely on people to get the permit for them. That's why you hire contractors. The other thing is, I would be willing to have, negotiate the wording of a clause in the encroachment agreement that would state that in the city in good faith determines that there's additional development that needs to happen in that area, that the city could revisit the encroachment and eliminate it altogether. Because I don't believe there's going to be any further development in that area. Right across the Arroyo is a housing project. The school is, I believe it's 2 or 3 blocks up the street. So I think Councilman Martinez is correct with regard to the extent of anything happening along New Mexico Avenue headed north. It is very small, but if it would assuage some of the concerns, I'd be willing to have a clause placed in the encroachment agreement that the city could revisit that in the event that further development in that area, became necessary.
Thank you. So, we'll go ahead and end the session and I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I will go ahead and, make a motion in reference to supporting the encroachment. At this point, I do want to reiterate the fact that, you know, community development, needs to, it's doing a good job today. I think you guys have really taken things in good faith, but, we need to get out there and educate. That's what we need to do, but based on the location and everything, I want to entertain a motion to go ahead and accept the encroachment.
I have a motion by Councilman Martinez. Do I have a second? Is that really an amendment?
Plus, to revisit if need be, but see.
Well, I didn't have that in, but I think that might be good language to put in there.
Is it part of your motion?
I will add that to my motion.
I'll second that motion, and again, Mr. Mayor, as a discussion, you know, I want to thank staff. You know, our staff is doing an awesome job. I mean, they're catching a lot of people that are redoing the roofs without permit. They're remodeling this, they're building that, this and the other. They're removing cars from city right of ways and so forth. And, it's not an easy job being a law enforcement officer or leading the department. It's a tough job. That's the toughest job, one of the toughest jobs in the city, is enforcement. And it hurts people's pockets, of course. But again, we have our city ordinances. The city ordinance is the law. And yes, you're right, Mr. Mathis, we are setting a little bit of a precedent, but we take it case by case here. And it doesn't matter what the history has shown. I mean, if you go back 20 years, I'm sure there's 100 cases, but it's a case by case. And I'm sorry this happened to you and the way it is, but I think you're very fortunate that you're in the situation that you own the property and you're the last owner and there's no utilities and all that kind of stuff. You don't affect your neighbors, no one else. So, I would note that. Thank you.
Well, first and a second with that, Mr. Senator, you got anything?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
No.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
And I just want to make this comment. I know we have a former mayor, former city manager, that I know this has been an issue where you can't catch everybody, and you always have those individuals that, you know, think that if they do it on the weekend, so it's always something that's going to happen. Probably just won't be the only one or the last one, you know what I mean? But kudos continue to staff. It's a hard job, as Lieutenant Montoya said, but just keep at it and try to inform the public that we have ordinances and we start enforcing. We do the best that we can, and these two gentlemen back there did their part, but here we are today still, so thank you, Mr.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our next item, business item number 3. Request approval of the grant of sewer line easement variance and non-disturbance agreement between Joseph Control Romero and the City of Los Angeles.
Mayor and council, this encroachment agreement is gonna come at us a little bit differently, because it's actually, city utility that's actually kind of encroaching on a residence. But I'd like to take us back again to the beginning so we can know how we got here. This property was purchased in the early 2000s by Mr. Roy and Veronica Hernandez. They purchased the property and wanted to build on the property. When they did purchase the property, they found out that there was an actual utility easement on, and I'm sorry, the address to this property is 495 Sun Drive.
Yes, Mr. Marcus.
Yes, sir.
There was an attorney involved on behalf of their party.
Yes, yes.
So with that, I would ask the council, recommend that we go into executive session just to get a review from our attorney and then to see where we are with the situation, and then we can come back just to make sure that we don't, since they do have a legal representation, we do make a phone call to get in contact with our attorney. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session NMSA 1978-10-15-187, meeting subject to attorney-client privilege pertaining to friend or pending litigation in which the body or the public body is or may become a participant, and more specific to this matter that's on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, you have to have one of the councilors to,
No, I'm just asking to entertain specifically, and I'll, if you guys wish, then you guys have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and, make a motion to enter into executive session in reference to this specific item for. Pending with threatening litigation, NMSA 1978-10-5-1, H7, meeting subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatening or pending litigation in which public body is or may become a participant.
Motion by Councilman Martinez, and a second. Do I have a second? Second by Pro Tem Montoya, roll call.
Counselor Casey,
yes.
Counselor Martinez,
Yes.
Counselor Montoya.
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.